Well, yesterday, the Senate confirmed Kash Patel as the director of the FBI. We even got Mitch McConnell voting yes. And we know now it's going to be a big task to reform the FBI. So let's go ahead and dive into that. We have Clint Brown here with us. He is the president of American Path. And this has been a long journey to get Kash Patel as the FBI director. What does it feel like now that it's finally happened?
It doesn't feel like it's actually happened. It hasn't hit me yet. It's been months in the works, really years. Happy to see that it's done. He's confirmed. He's director of the FBI. He'll be sworn in later today. So it's really exciting, but it hasn't quite hit me yet.
I bet your family's taking it well, though. They can actually see you again.
Yes, yeah, they are. They're pretty excited about that.
You're out of excuses for leaving the house on weekends and...
Yeah, exactly. How am I going to scroll Twitter? No, I'm kidding. If the wife is listening, I'm not actually scrolling Twitter. I'm working. But yeah, they're excited about it.
So the first stab at this is almost unfair to ask you right now, right after the victory. But what is the story here? I mean, we went from this being an impossible thing. We all have good friends who heard this name and thought, love the guy, but there's no way this is going to happen. I mean, this was something that seemed an impossible feat, given the temperature in the room, a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, and now it's the symbol, really, I think, of an entirely unanimous, successful, overpowering period of confirmations.
That's exactly right. So there's two forces at play here. One is Trump won the popular vote. He won 7 swing states. It's clear the American people are behind him. They're not putting up with this anymore, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, the deep state coming after him. And Kash Patel is the symbol of fighting the deep state. So he's very popular amongst the base. The second is it's a new Senate. There's new leadership in the Senate. They instituted some reforms as a body for how they were going to do business. And it took a little while to catch up. We saw some problems with Hegseth. We saw some potential problems with Tulsi. But they've come around. They've caught up. So these forces were at play, and really, I'd love to tell you about sort of the strategy that we had going into this confirmation process, and actually what a great job Kash did throughout the process. So, we hit 61 Senate meetings in really a matter of weeks because they were out for Christmas. So before they went out for Christmas, we had hit like 40 meetings in 2 weeks, which is a ton of work, and Kash was just ready to go. The guy runs on jet fuel. He was going every day. I think that made a huge impact, getting that early momentum. So, and we could talk more about that, but there was definitely a strategy to it. But at the same time, the Senate caught up with the country, which is kind of unbelievable. They realized there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Donald Trump.
And they seem like the Senate is largely a body that, more than any other body in American Republican politics, resists the president, still has that strain of resistance to him. They have a different style, and they don't like to change that often. What the public sees of the Senate is usually the hearings. And it's pretty obvious during the hearings that every single senator in there has already made up their mind. Their questions are going to be nice or going to be mean, and they're not going to change. But you've had now the opportunity, you've worked in the Senate for years, but now, over the last couple of weeks in particular, I had the opportunity to have all these behind closed doors, I know that they're secret, meetings with senators. How many of that do you walk in where there's actually an open mind? How many people, Democrats, Republicans, are actually, do you think those meetings can actually shift and change when they've heard Kash Patel? They say, oh, he looks crazy, he's a MAGA guy, he worked for Nunes, he was a pit bull, and the incredibly ridiculous myth that he was underqualified for the job. Right. But did you make headway in those meetings where you think people who may have been no votes became yes votes?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's two different things happening there as well. One is all the Republicans, even the ones who were skeptical, had an open mind because of those forces at play. They did not want to be on the wrong side of the American people on this. So those folks certainly had an open mind, even if they were skeptical. The Democrats, no, they didn't have an open mind. They were asking questions that were designed to trip them up. They would be very nice behind closed doors. And, I'm so glad, Kash, that you were a public defender. We're going to have the first public defender as a FBI director. And then in the hearing, you saw what they did. They went after him. Like
I got the feeling they didn't like you guys.
It seems not. It seems not.
might have been losing their votes.
Yeah, I look at the deep state, though, as you say. Like, Kash is kind of that flag bearer to go through and fight against the deep state. If I know something about them, they're not just going to give up. Now that Kash Patel has been magically named the FBI director, it's not going to end here. This fight doesn't end. So what does the future look like here?
It doesn't end. But, there were a number of moments along the way throughout the confirmation process where people had to ride to our rescue. There are a number of deadlines you have to meet. There are perjury traps that the Democrats set, trying to trip you up. And a lot of very high caliber people had Kash's back, and they're going to continue to have Kash's back. So really, it's a warning to the deep state. He's not alone. He may be the only political appointee at the FBI, but there's an army of people behind him. You didn't think we could get him confirmed, and we did. And, FAFO, we all know what that means. Go ahead, find out. Let's mess around and go after Kash, and there's going to be a lot of people that come after you, and we know who you are.
Of the delays that we saw, there was a lot of anger among the base. You saw it in social media, the committee taking its time. It seemed like how much of that was worth the anger and how much of that was just the way the Senate works, procedural? Were there things that could have been done better? Were there kind of advice that you would have on how Republicans maybe had to treat these hearings going forward, knowing that in this new environment, you don't get unanimous consent anymore. You have to vote on everything, and you don't get Democrats who are going to change their vote on any Trump nominees.
That's exactly right. And there may have been a lot of frustration. I was very frustrated. I was very frustrated at times in the delays.
Saw it. You handled it well.
Thank you. I tried. There were delays, but these are things designed in the process for how the Senate works. Some of them were designed in a much more pleasant time when everyone got along and nominees were confirmed.
The uniparty.
Yes, and it was really to vet the nominees, make sure that they aren't Chinese spies, something like that, and that's certainly not a concern here. So there is merit to that process, and it does take a while, but really, it prepares you. It prepares you for the hearing. It prepares you for being FBI director. I worked in the Senate for 10 years, and I had no idea what nominees go through. They run through a gauntlet. We had to find every media clip that Kash had ever done and report it to the Senate Judiciary Committee. You know how much that man's been in media?
Yes.
We found 1,600 clips in a matter of days and gave it to them. And it's all public. You can go see those clips. If you ever want to watch just a reel of Kash Patel, it's on the Senate Judiciary Committee website. You can find it. But it really prepares you because then you know what he said. You have a record of what he said, and you can defend that record. So it's not all bad. Some of it's good. It is frustrating. We do need a government that gets in place quickly, especially in the modern era, especially with a president that has 4 years. But I can't complain about it too much.
Now that he's confirmed, do we get to see the enemies list?
What they called the enemies list is an appendix in the back of his book. He did a very well-researched book. At his heart, he's a lawyer. That's his background. So he put an appendix in the book. And they started calling this an enemies list in the media, in the hearing. And it's a list in alphabetical order of people that didn't act properly in the government. It's totally crazy. They painted it.
It's like a binders full of women situation, right? Like they're just gonna. If we say it like this, maybe people will be scared about it.
Right. Meanwhile,
That's
there's
it.
Epstein's list that they won't give us.
I was going to say
they love lists.
I think there's a few other lists that people are waiting for in relation to Mr. Patel in the coming days. As Glenn Beck has been fond of telling everyone, right? We'll see.
You got to take out your bets.
So when you look at this now, moving forward, isn't it the case that is this naive? I mean, isn't it the case that this is done? Yeah. I mean, this was the one guy that they were training all their fire on. At this point, it doesn't matter. We'll go back to normal effectively, right? Because Trump's just it's done.
It's done. Right? He's in. There's only one person that can remove him from that position, and that is Donald J. Trump. So good luck taking him out. They're going to set every trap they can for him.
I mean, in general, in terms of confirmations, like there's not. We'll go effectively back to normal in part because this arm wrestling match is over.
I wish I could agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. I think there are going to be a number of nominees that are attacked because they haven't gotten their scalp. Gates stepped down, but that wasn't a Democrat victory. Mm-hmm. And they need to show their base of victory because they are totally lost. All they can do is try to get some points on the board.
I got you. So the reverse is true. It's going to get more brutal. They're going to look for someone to sacrifice.
People that they would ordinarily pass through with no problem, they're going to go after them like they've never gone after them before. So I feel bad for anybody who's running through that confirmation process now, because the Democrats haven't gotten their scalp.
Will you be jumping on Team Elbridge Colby now? Or do you have some free time in the evenings?
I'm Team Elbridge Colby, but I'm never going through the confirmation process again. That was it. How can you beat going through it with Kash Patel?
Yeah.
I got to go out on top.
Well, I look at just the nominations overall, right? And I think that we were talking to people earlier today, and they were saying Donald Trump has, I think, 19 right now. And if you look back at Obama at this point in time, it was 13. Biden only had 6. So you do talk about Donald Trump, the mandate, the people have spoken. Just what you've actually seen, because we do know that these are long, lengthy processes, yes. How we've actually gotten through here in a pretty decent time frame.
Yes, and I think a lot of credit for that goes to the Senate, to Senator Thune, to frankly to Mike Lee and Rick Scott pushing for changes early on, getting the Senate in the right headspace. I think everybody was good with that once they got there. We have to move fast. And Senator Thune has done or Majority Leader Thune, feels good to say that, has done a great job of pushing the Senate to move quickly. All of the chairmen have done a great job. Grassley was fantastic throughout the process. He has a ton of experience, and he's ancient of days in the best way, and he knew what he was doing. So I think we're going to see a good pace continue.
What did this tell you about the relationship and the changes in the future between this whole process, all the confirmations, between Thune and the previous leader, McConnell? How are they operating? People worried that Thune would not be his own man. He had often taken a lot of advice and direction from McConnell. Is Donald Trump's arrival and his national majority a changer in this, or how's he been operating?
I think there's a couple factors at play. Yes, there is the Donald Trump factor. There is the American people spoke factor. But also, the Senate was getting pretty frustrated. It's a body that takes a long time to get frustrated. But they were...
like Ents.
They wanted to move. Yes, just like Ents and Lord of the Rings. It takes a long time for them to meet and decide what they're going to do. But once they do it, watch out, because it's the most powerful body in our government, really. So I think Thune understood the body, his colleagues, the people who elect him majority leader, wanted to move fast, and he wanted to move fast. So that's why they're doing it. And he's taken a strategy of, I'm going to show you, not tell you. And just like you said, Jill, he has shown that he can do it.
So were you surprised that Mitch McConnell is a fan?
We had a great meeting with him. I won't go into details on that because those are private meetings, but there was a lot of agreement, and he had a very open mind. He asked great questions. I was a little surprised because he's voted against a number of other nominees. But at the end of the day, he recognizes the importance of the FBI. He looked at Kash's background, which you mentioned, Chris. He's supremely qualified. Mm-hmm. He was a national security prosecutor. He was on Benghazi. He prosecuted the World Cup bombings in Uganda. He was there when the Ugandan lead prosecutor was assassinated. Like, the man has been there. He's done it. So you look at his record, which McConnell did, and saw that he is supremely qualified. And how can you vote against him when he has that background?
Well, you know what, Clint? On the behalf of the American people who have all been waiting to confirm Kash, we want to thank you just for putting a lot of time and effort into this, and just congratulations on a job well done.
Well, thank you very much. Kash made it easy. It was a fantastic experience, and I'm happy to have been a part of it.
Excellent. Thanks for your time.